Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid died there in that cemetery not 6 months ago.
Alright, welcome back. We are now rapidly approaching the finale of Call of Juarez Gunslinger, and as you have seen just previously, I have actually sacked up and completed that duel honourably, on my first try as well, funnily enough. I think possibly I was just getting so angry my reaction time was just all over the place, because I went back there, panic, flip, did it first time, so that's just me being incompetent, that's not the game's fault. Anyway, yeah, without further ado, let's just crack on and do this. I'm so looking forward to this. Finale. Here we go. Shit is about to go down and it's gonna get colourful and probably quite violent. Let's see what happens. Let's see whether or not we really do shoot that bartender. Or not.
Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid were killed by the Bolivian army. Everybody knows that.
That's the legend, but it ain't the truth.
So, you never found Bob? There is no Bob. This old sumbitch ain't even Silas Greaves.
Sir, is that true? Have you been pulling our legs this whole time?
Well, not the whole time.
Oh man, I think you've worn out your welcome here.
Maybe you're right, Jack. Maybe it's time to pay. You see, Ben, or should I say Bob, your past always catches up with you.
I was a different man back then, crazy. Drinking, I've changed my ways, I swear to you. If I could turn back the clock,
But you can't, Bob.
Choose my destiny. What the fuck? Where did this come from? Okay, fair enough. We're doing some kind of... I think so. Alright, fair enough. We're going to make a decision here. I've got a feeling... Actually, no, I've got a feeling that the game is supposed to be going to fuck with me either way, however I do this. However, considering all the stuff Silence has gone through and the way he's changed as a person, especially the last level where all this stuff is coming back to haunt him, I figure he probably would just want to let it go if he... Yeah, I don't know. As interesting as it would be, I think I am going to have to go with redemption purely because this is normally what I go with. If Ben had come across as a more unpleasant character, I might have been inclined, but he does seem like a guy who's mellowed, and I mean, if anything, this story has proven that characters do change, and that some of the people Silas has gone after have been different people or gone on to be better people. So let's go with redemption and see what happens. I'm probably going to end up shooting someone, but yeah, you know, I feel better about it.
why'd you toy with me like that? Telling those tales, knowing all along. Why not just lay your cards on the table?
Wanted to suss you out, Bob. See what kind of man you turned out to be. Maybe prod you into drawing on me. See, all those years on your trail turned me into a killer. Can't even remember who I was before you tried to murder me. You, on the other hand, walked that very same path in exactly the opposite direction.
What do you mean by that?
You think your life is worth sparing, Bob? Boy, what's your name again?
It's Eisenhower, sir. Dwight Eisenhower.
What do you plan to do with your life, Dwight Eisenhower?
Tomorrow I'll be leaving for West Point, sir.
So, you want to be a soldier? Well, then do it right, son. Don't tear down the world out of anger and spite like I did. You build it up. You do something decent with your life, you hear me?
Sir? Yes, sir.
I won't have it said I left you with nothing, Bob.
Okay, I guess that was it.
Ooh, dear. Oh, dear. Won't you spare me over till another year?
Yeah, I'm not talking over this. Oh, is it not listening to the whole thing? Ah, dear. Well, yeah, I mean, please don't judge me about this, but I am going to talk over this purely for the length of the video, and I know that's not particularly professional, but whatever. There we go. I don't know, I was expecting more of a finale, but then I suppose with the way it went, you couldn't exactly have had a big shootout finale. That was kind of how it was going to peak. I'm kind of interested to see what the alternative ending would have been, whether or not it would have actually been maybe one final duel, or... Yeah, I probably will go back and actually take the alternate path and just record that as well for the sake of completion. But yeah, let's just go through the credits and then I will chat about this at the end.
There are men who fear legends, but a man legends fear. He's a four-hosted reaper, crying bullets for tears. When a drought comes, injustice, bullets make good rain. When the heartache has dried up, only blood heals the pain. There's a time for grieving, and a time to just pray. There's a time for forgiving, but it's not for today.
Ooh, New Game Plus? Minimal HD and extra difficult to get the rules. Nice! I love it when a game does that. When a game goes, congratulations, you beat it, prepare your anus. Which is fantastic. And there we go, that was Call of Juarez Gunslinger, and yeah, New Game Plus. God damn, that sounds like fun. Which I'll probably do under my own time. And that was it. Just, if I could sum that up in one sentence, it would be short, sharp, and beautiful. I've never really... I mean, I had heard good things about this game, but I don't think anything really prepared me for how... I don't know, how artfully it was put together. I think possibly it didn't have the same level of love as a little indie project. But to take like a big franchise and go, we're going to do a small spin-off style, just arcadey shooter, and not only pull that off and get a really solid basis for mechanics and like a really fun shooter, you also managed to layer in a really nice story. Again, it's nothing that I haven't seen before, but this game has punched above its weight in almost every single regard. And I think if I'm comparing this to Dread, the game I was playing in parallel with, everything that Dread kind of fucked up, this game got, and did it with a really nice measured attitude. It never went completely crazy, it never went completely off the chain with what it wanted to do. It just went, right, doing this bit, then we're doing this bit, then we're doing this bit, and everything just incrementally increases and escalates, matching your skill level in the process. Like when we started getting, I think that was the lovely thing right at the very early on. You go up against Old Man Clanton, he's got that big Gatling gun, and I was like, oh man, I wish I could get my hands on that. And later on I do, and they don't even pull that complete horseshit cooldown mechanic, which they've done with loads of turret sections since. Because there was no cooling system on a Gatling gun, you just cranked and cranked and cranked until everything in front of you was puree. The guns all felt wonderfully satisfying. It was nice that they had a very limited... Again, comparing with Dread, Dread had loads of guns, very few of which were actually that effective, and you pretty much only stuck with one or two. With this, you had a limited pool, but everything had its place. Possibly the Sawners weren't amazing, but they were satisfying and fun as hell to use. Just that, as you shot someone, was wonderful. And the fact that you used the upgrade trees to improve them was excellent. That really helped you kind of fit to your playstyle. So even if I had a shotgun and I needed to fire at someone at range, if I'd pumped enough points into that class, I could still use it semi-effectively. Or I could go for the Ranger, which is... And that's another thing as well, they paired off things really nicely. So you had even the pistol worked really nicely in tandem with the shotgun. You didn't necessarily have to go, right, go back here, get the rifle, run back again, that was absolutely wonderful. The dynamite mechanic, once I figured it out, was really fun and really intuitive. Just being able to shoot your own dynamite in midair to take people out from behind cover. Compare that to Judge Dredd's ricochet bullets, which are about as useful as farting in a fucking hurricane. Was really good. And again, everything was fast-paced, but not frenetic, if that makes sense. It encouraged you to go for that full-on steaming, be brave, be crazy, because it's... Not only is it fun, but it's a really effective way to actually do things, because you want to chain those combos together, get the experience. And so you've got the concentration, which again, you have to incrementally increase to make it more and more effective, but it's still usable no matter what you do. The sense of death thing, which I think is a nice little addition actually, because I've always had a checkered kind of relationship with regenerating health, and I'm kind of on the fence about it. Some games it works, some games it doesn't. If Dark Souls had regenerating health, I would have not enjoyed it half as much as I did. But with this, you get the idea that because it's pushing you so far forward, it adds that little extra, that little kind of Devil's Gambit ideal that if you really push it and you absolutely flub it, you've still got that last minute and a really stylish bullet dodge just to get yourself out of trouble. And actually, it's actually worth your while to put yourself in that amount of danger, because then you get free concentration for about 5 seconds, which is enough to clear a room, which is fantastic. And yeah, I mean, like, even the levels are nice. I mean, even though they reuse locations, they always manage to give it a little bit of a twist, a little bit of a rejig, so it doesn't feel too like you're just running down the same street over and over again. Although clearly they didn't have massive amounts of assets, and what I would have loved to have, like unique levels for every single thing. They pulled out the stops for the levels where it counted. The swamps, the ghost town, the caves when you're up in the mountains. That's really fantastic. I loved that. And for certain other levels where it's more about the thing which is happening, not the place you're in, they could afford to rehash Lincoln or whatever it was a few times. So that's fair enough. The story, I will just... yeah, that was lovely. It was a simple story, but the telling of it was the most important thing. Having Silas as this unreliable narrator, and later on having the other guys listening to it start to question how he's actually telling the story. Was it Steve falling asleep during one part of the story? All lovely little things that in other games that might have actually broken you out of the experience and made you go, oh, well, that's not particularly good. But because it's setting this up like it's Silas just telling the story and narrating the story, it's not trying to suck you into that immersive state. It's like you're at the table listening to Silas tell this story, but you've just got an incredibly vivid and brutally violent imagination. And I think that's something which games haven't really tried that much, and it's something that's really works, because I would love more stories to have that element of embellishment and have that element of freewheeling. Is he really on the level with me on this, or is he making this shit up because it sounds good? And that's just so nice. The ending, I think, maybe was a touch abrupt, but again, I think as Silas's character developed all the way through the story, you got this impression that revenge really was starting to turn him from the person he used to be into this, I wouldn't say a monster, but like kind of he has a really solid regard for how much he's changed and how much of a hypocrite he's becoming. I love that I actually commented on, like, but Silas has killed shitloads of people by this point, and not in, like, honourable ways. And then later on he kind of goes, I've killed more people than any of the amount of people I've gone after. So, yeah, that's a really nice, it never strayed too far into cliche. It never failed to have a sense of humour. It always had, not necessarily slapstick, but just little moments where it was breaking the tension in order to just make things a bit more enjoyable. What was it in the ghost book? Just as Silas is getting really into his ghost story thing, Steve just kind of goes, you know, my dad got hit on the head with a branch. He talked for the dogs for the rest of his life. It was like, just trying to break it to Silas as gently as possible that you may have a screw loose, mate. Which was wonderful. And yeah, I mean, ending-wise, I enjoyed the Redemption one. We'll obviously go and see what the Revenge one was as well, but I don't think it'll be as nice, because I think that was the natural conclusion for the story. Silas has come to that point, and I'd noticed that Ben was not necessarily a bad guy. If he'd sounded a bit more shady, I might have been inclined, but Ben always sounded a lot more like he just wanted to get out of that story as much as possible and make sure that he wasn't being chased up on. Like he was just hoping it was some dreadful coincidence, although it was kind of foreshadowed pretty early on that that wasn't the case. Yeah, so that's the story, and the story was lovely. Art style was absolutely wonderful. The little illustrated panels were fantastic. I really liked that. That gave that kind of Penny Dreadful graphic novel style look to it, which was really nice, because again, as I said right at the beginning, pre-render cutscenes can kind of knock you out of it a little bit, because you're kind of associating that with the gameplay, and all of a sudden it's like, oh no, I've had control taken away from me. Where if it's stuff like that, you can just kind of sit back and go, this is a bit I just enjoy and watch and identify with. So my only real qualms were in certain areas. I think they were overusing the unreliable narration mechanic a tiny bit. Like when you're on the bridge and all the extra stuff starts falling down, I was like, okay, you've kind of strung that out a bit too much for its own good. But again, I could kind of let that slide. Excuse me. And what else? Well, again, when you get shot, as much as I kind of understand that you're going to get shot, I think you got a little too disorientated. I mean, just the big splashes and the fuzziness, it was all very disorientating, and I know that has to be disorientating in order for it to have an impact on the gameplay, but I think it was just a little bit too much, possibly just a shade too much. And yeah, I can guess it could have looked nicer, but for what it was, it worked, and I can't really argue too much with that. Moving beyond that, apart from the story, we got the arcade. And the arcade and the duel system. I will do a video on the duel system, and that is fun as well, although it's quite merciless. It's got a lovely little idea behind it. The arcade system I really, really liked. More games need to do this kind of thing, because you've got the assets there, you can get more content out of a game really simply, just by taking those assets, stringing them together into a challenge or a time attack or whatever you want to do with it, because people will just play that. And I went into the arcade really kind of concerned. I was like, oh god, what's this going to be like? And I was thinking it's going to be a shooting gallery, it's going to be an on-rail section, it's going to be awful. And I was really pleasantly surprised because, yeah, we have a couple where it's more just steaming through the level, and then you get to Iron Springs and they start twisting and playing around with things. And yeah, there are let me just see. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 arcade levels, and I'm probably, yeah, about halfway through. And I'm really impressed with the quality of them. They're nice, because they make use of a lot of assets from around the games, and they kind of bash some levels together, which is really nice. And yeah, I just wish more games would actually take... I mean, Dread actually succeeded in that regard. I will give it credit for that. It had nice little arcade levels. They were just a bit simplistic, really. They didn't really have too much focus on challenge. It was more just survive, rather than doing things well. The duel system, on the other hand, is very interesting because basically you've got to get through every single duel in the game with 5 lives. And you get... and if you get stuck on one particular duel, you're fucked. You're gone. Just... you're out, completely out of it. So that's a really nice idea, and I will go back and I will basically do one flat-out straight attempt of it, see what happens. Probably fail, but we'll see what happens. Now that I've got through them all, I know what they're all roughly like, I might stand a chance. But you never know. I don't know, I'll try and do them all honourably, of course. So yeah, those are pretty much my thoughts. Music was actually quite nice as well, just a side thing. The little song Silas sung was very nice, just a kind of bluesy requiem for himself, which suited his character as well. It wasn't like it just came out of nowhere to sound grim. It was very much a reflection of Silas's own mental state and his own perception of himself, so really nice on that regard. And as far as anything else goes, yeah, definitely just go out and play this game. It is stupid fun. It's probably cheap as chips at the moment, and it probably cheap as chips because it's been out for a while. And for your money, I would be hard-pressed to find a game that's this easy to jump into and yet this rewarding with what you can offer up in terms of a linear campaign. I mean, certain games are cheap and they're just kind of open base, you make your own entertainment, that's fair enough. This is very much a channeled style, it's very much a channeled kind of experience, but at the same time, that still works. It's still really fun, really challenging. I mean, that was hard mode, and I got my arse handed to me on several occasions. Sometimes because I was stupid, sometimes because I was literally just not good enough. Let's not talk about that duel I did. But yeah, and again, it's given me New Game Plus, and it's given me New Game Plus, so I can just steam through and get that's perfect for people who want to get achievements and get certain bonuses and stuff like that. And you've got oh no, hang on a second. Oh, actually, maybe we can just go straight into continue and do the last one. Straight to the And yeah, I think this was made with the player in mind and the player's enjoyment in mind, and that is lovely. And oh, hang on a second, no, not that one. Nuggets of Truth, which I did mean to kind of show people. This is such a nice little extra bit because so many times collectibles are just pointless things which crop up in levels, and it's like, oh, you got the shiny nugget, have a thing. This literally is stuff I have sat down and just read through because it's all really quite interesting. I mean, we get things like Wild West shows, and I think there's a little bit of Buffalo Bill in there. Yeah, William Frederick Codry, or Buffalo Bill, he's slaughtering 4,000 barnacle for 18 months to feed railroad workers, because he's a bit of a douche. And yeah, just lovely little factoids, because it works. It really works in this case, because sometimes you might think, if it was another game, you might think, oh, they're just doing it to be a bit, you know, shoehorn a bit more content in. But with this, because it's Silas embellishing the story, it's nice to have the actual things which happen just to take over the, to actually give you context. So you can sit down and kind of go, ah, that's why things were a little bit weird there, because this is what actually happened. So you got General D. Eisenhower. Because I recognise the name, and yeah, Supreme Commander Alan Force, just in World War, as you do. So yeah, that is pretty much it, I would say. And yes, once again, I can only recommend this game. It's absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you with whatever I play next. Have a lovely day, and goodbye.
Why'd you toy with me like that? Telling those tales, knowing all along. Why not just lay your cards on the table?
Here. I won't have it said that I left you with nothing.
That's how you want it? So be it. Holy shit!
Right, Molly, move against that wall. Go!
Oh my God! Oh Jesus!
Did you know it was him all along?
Cassidy told me Bob was in Abilene before he died. But I wasn't sure Ben was my man until he revealed how much he knew about Ringo and Reed. The coin, of course. Well, that was the last nail in that particular coffin.
I better go get the sheriff.
You okay, boy? You're looking mighty shook up.
Dwight, maybe you best go home. Young Eisenhower here is leaving for West Point tomorrow. He shouldn't get caught up in something like this.
I think I might head out myself at this juncture. Unless you want to stop me, Jack.
No, sir, Mr. Graves.
So where you going now? Now that you had your revenge?
Doesn't really matter, does it? As I've sold my soul for it, and will never again walk with those I have lost. You already know.
Chapter of that fairy tale, you mean?